Hey everybody, it's your Uncle Bear. So you want to be a truck driver? I did too. Like, always. I remember being 9-10 years old. We lived in a mobile home. Some of you call them trailer houses. But lived in a line of mobile homes up in northeast South Dakota. There was an alley that ran the full length of this line, which was the equivalent of about 4 blocks. And no brakes in it, you know, I mean, there was no side streets or anything to cross. But I used to ride up and down that alley with my bike, pretending I was a truck driver, and I would get back to our trailer, and I would wrap my handlebars around the side of the railing on the steps. You know, there was a little landing there, not a deck, just a landing, you know, bringing you up to the door. And that was where I loaded and unloaded. You know, this is back when CBs were the big thing. This was back in probably 1976, 1977. And then in high school, a buddy of mine's dad was a truck driver, and he basically gave me my first taste of driving. And of course, I couldn't get a job with anybody, you know, because I didn't have any experience. Nobody could insure me. And even if I had experience, the going age was around 23 years old. So when I got out of the military, I went back into radio, which is what my part-time job was in high school, and did that till I was 23. And then I went to truck. There was an ad in the paper. There was a company that would hire me after I graduated from the truck driving course through the Mitchell Votech in Mitchell, South Dakota. And that's what I did. They put me with a trainer that had 23 years experience. And I still remember things that he told me, you know. It's just little stuff, but it's stuff that mattered. So here's what I'm going to tell you if you're thinking about driving a truck. Number one, it can be scary at times. Very scary. And I'm not talking about horror movie scary. Horror movie scary, you watch other people getting murdered, injured, chased by fictitious creatures, stuff like that. Out here, you could be driving for 8 or 10 or your full 11 hours that you're allowed in a day, driving through ice and snow to make your delivery on time. Because some places, if you are late, you'll get rescheduled. Could be 24 hours later. Maybe they'll work you in, but you could still be sitting there 24 hours later on work-in status. Or they could reschedule you for 2 weeks later. I've seen some of them do that. Not with me. I make damn sure I'm on time one way or another. And I pay attention to my forecasts. You look ahead. You look ahead at your forecast. You look at radar and see which way the storm is going. I won't blink an eye going 80 miles out of the way if I need to get around an ice storm, you know. A lot of drivers think, hey, I got a good heavy load on, it's not going to matter. If it's just snow, you're correct. You're correct. With snow, a good heavy load gives you more weight on your drives and your trailer tires, for that matter, and you get better traction. If it's ice, it's up to the ice. It doesn't matter. All being heavier means is you'll go further into the ditch. Now, if you're empty and you're running on ice, the wind is your worst enemy, because the wind will literally blow you off the road. So, like I say, if you can't do 40 miles an hour, then park it. It's just too bad to drive, Park it. You're wasting your time at less than 40 miles an hour. And it took me a couple years to realize that. Back when I first started, it's like you're driving 15 miles an hour on glare ice. It's like, what am I gaining? All I'm doing is risking my driving record. That's all you're doing at that point. And risking killing somebody. That comes into play too. So anyway, this is a profession where you not only have to learn to face your fears, in some instances you need to just, by God, ignore them and pretend your fears don't exist. You need to learn to ignore your instincts sometimes. Sometimes your instinct tells you to hit the brakes, and that's not always the best idea. So there's just a lot of things that you have to be aware of. It's long hours and not necessarily all that good a pay. There's a lot of people that get into this profession, they retire from another career, and they decide to get into this one because they heard there's a big shortage. Number one, there's not that big of a shortage. Okay, the numbers are skewed because the mega fleets have such a massive turnover rate because they treat drivers like dirt. They put them through a driving school and tell them, you have to stay with us this long or we'll put a lien on you for $6,000 or $8,000. If you're gonna go through driving school, do it like I did. I went through driving school and I went out with a trainer. That's another thing. The mega fleets, they will put you with a trainer that's barely got any more experience than you do. They'll put them through school, they'll put them with a trainer for 6 or 8 weeks, and then they'll put them out on their own for 6 or 8 weeks, and if they live through that, they make them a trainer. That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. No, like I say, go through like a vocational school, and go through their driving course. Get you a student loan. You can get a student loan to do that, and grants, and then it'll probably cost you less. It's your deal who you go to drive for and how long you stay there. That's your decision. The ball is in your court then. And then you go find you a carrier that will put you with a trainer, and you tell them flat out, I don't want anybody that doesn't have at least 15 years over the road experience. Make sure you say that, over the road. Because there's a difference. You need somebody who has experience driving in all elements, in all terrains. There's mountain driving, there's flatland driving, there's winter driving, there's summer driving. You need somebody that's got experience with all that. And that will teach you all that. Not all trainers are good, even experienced ones. I'm not saying that. And honestly, they're going to teach you a few good things, but the majority of what you're going to learn by doing it out on your own. They'll teach you the basics. The school will teach you the basics, and that's the way it's meant to be. But the majority of what you're going to learn is going to be learned by you and taught by you. The old school of hard knocks. It's a tough life. You have to be married to somebody who's strong and independent and not really the jealous type, because I've seen drivers out here drive themselves crazy thinking their wife is screwing around on them at home. If you're that person, don't do it. If your spouse at home is the type that thinks you're trying to get a girl in every port or a guy in every port, it's not for you. You'll wreck your marriage. It can be hard on a marriage. My wife dispatches me, so we are partners in every way, shape, or form. I'm an independent owner-operator. When I bought my first truck, somebody asked me if I was going to lease on to somebody. No. What's the point? If if I buy a truck and I lease it on to somebody else, I got to govern it at whatever speed they tell me to. I got to run it their way. I've got, there's companies out there that want you to have inward facing cameras and everything else, and it's like, I'm not doing all that shit. I'm not. What's the point of being your own boss if you got to adhere to somebody else's rules, right? Duh. So you just go out there, like I say, there's a lot to learn out here. It can be fun. It used to be a lot more fun than it is now. And hopefully at some point we can get the government to realize that we're all grown-ups out here and we can decide when we're tired. There was nothing wrong with the old hours of service regulations. What they did when they came out with the 14-hour rule is they eliminated the ability to take coffee breaks and stop for a sit-down meal. Hell, I used to get up in the morning. I was never a breakfast person, but I would get up in the morning and I'd go in and have coffee, wake up a little bit, and talk to the other drivers. I'd drive a few hours down the road and I'd stop for lunch, talk to the other drivers. I'd stop in the afternoon for coffee, maybe a piece of pie, talk to the other drivers. Drive a few hours more and stop for supper and then go to bed. Oh, by the way, that pie and coffee, if I felt so inclined, I'd take a nap afterwards, and then drive, because you had 15 hours total on duty a day from midnight to midnight. And as long as you didn't exceed the 10 hours, without taking an 8-hour break, you were good to go. So yeah, and most of what I learned about trucking, I learned a lot just sitting around those coffee counters, talking to the other drivers, asking the old timers questions. That's something that is missing in the trucking industry that we need to bring back. And just because the guy's got this gray hair around here doesn't necessarily mean he's got a whole lot of experience driving. Like I said, there's a lot of people that they spend 20-30 years in another career and then decide to do this because they get paid to travel in their retirement, and that's not what this is. This isn't a vacation, and don't wear flip-flops. Wear hard-soled shoes, preferably with steel-toed. You have a pallet fall over and it lands on your toe, you'll wish you had steel-toed something, I'll guarantee you. Those pallets weigh, some of those blue chip pallets weigh about 50 pounds a piece. So, yeah, wear steel-toed shoes, okay? Be prepared. Have layers of clothing to keep warm, even when it's July, because you'll be amazed how many times you're going to stop to just kind of do a walk around, take a leak up on the top of a mountain pass, and there's still snow on the ground up there, Jack. So yeah, be prepared for that stuff. Dress appropriately for this industry. Like I said, you're not on vacation. This isn't a vacation. This isn't a game. And a lot of times, this is life and death. You will run into life and death situations. And you better know what to do, I asked a young guy once if he'd ever been down a mountain pass without using an engine brake. He told me no. And I told him that I've had it happen twice, where halfway down, my engine brake just quit working. You better know how to get the rest of the way to the bottom. But the one thing you want to do is, before you start down as if you don't have an engine brake. Okay? Start down we used to say in the old days, we used to say drop one gear lower than the gear you climb the hill in, and go down the hill like that. Well, back then the engines didn't pull as good as they do now. They weren't as high a horse, and I would say nowadays drop 2 gears lower than the one you pulled it in, and you'll probably be all right. And whoever came up with the stab method of braking when you're going down a hill, that's crazy. That's crazy. So anyway, that's all I got. Think it through. Ask some guys. Go to your local, if you're thinking about driving truck for a living, go to your local truck stop and talk to drivers. Ask them. Ask them about the company they're with. Ask lots of questions. Do your research. And the internet's the internet. Bonjour, remember? Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Go talk to people and ask them. That's all I got, you guys. Be safe out there. Have a great day. I'm going to go play in the snow for a little bit and go get this load delivered this afternoon. And then I'm headed for the house, and then tomorrow I'm taking off again. So, no rest for the weary, I guess. We'll talk to you later. Hey, if you find this informative or entertaining or whatever, like it, share it, and subscribe to it for me, okay? Look forward to talking to you some more. Take care.